Hello. Welcome to another episode of Have a Dad Bod podcast, where it is okay to have a dad bod, but it's not okay to have a dad bod mind. Today, today I'm coming at you fired up, excited because I am talking about something that I am very passionate about. What is a why? What is a why? I'm sure you've heard this. And if not, well, you are in for a treat. So, I wanted to talk about what is a why for a few different reasons. But we have to rewind back to the year of 2007. 2007, I was working for a real estate marketing company, one of the first jobs I had when I moved out to San Diego, and I had some fantastic training. And I remember I sat in a sales meeting and they were talking about this specific topic. However, they talked to us about having a why because you needed to have a why you do what you do, because you needed to have that motivation and drive. Because I was in sales at the time, still am kind of, always selling. So when my sales manager asked me that, he said, Chris, what is your why? Why are you coming to work this month? What are you working so hard for? Why are you calling these people? Why are you choosing to cold call 150, 200 people a day? Great question, right? I didn't know. So I made something up. I needed a new scooter, or I was craving a bag of Jolly Ranchers, whatever it was. But it was something I just kind of thought on the spot. Didn't put any thought behind it. And so I didn't realize that in 2007, 14 years later, as I'm doing this podcast, I would ever think about that again. And here's what I realized. Having a why is an incredible gift you give yourself because it creates accountability. It creates a tenacity inside you to actually pursue something because there's an end goal attached to it, right? Or if you're a parent, when you give your kid a why, what does it do? It motivates them. I constantly am dangling a carrot in front of my kid's head. Hey, if you guys clean up the playroom, you'll get a treat. Now they have a why. What is that why? For a 6 and a 4-year-old, it is, I want to have tonight. What did I give them tonight? This is exciting. Elmer Fudd cookie. EL Fudge cookies. Let's just have a moment of silence for that. Those little adorable Keebler elves bringing that flavor since the early 90s. So what is your why? What is your why? I'm going to break this down in a few different ways here today. Why do we need one? How do you create one? And then what do you do with it? Short and sweet, as always on Have a Dad Bod podcast. So what is my why? My kids are my why. I remember a couple months ago, right when coronavirus hit really hard, my business got impacted. And I had to ask myself a question about pain. I had to suffer the pain. And it was this visualization I had actually when I was at the grocery store. I don't know about you guys, but when you go to the grocery store, my kids love asking every single aisle, hey, Dad, can we get this? Hey, can we get that? Can we get this? Can we get that? And so I thought about it and I said yes at this particular moment. And the big reason why is because I had been working my butt off and I was able to provide for my child. Maybe it was $4 or $5 at the time. However, it had a bigger, at that time when I was really struggling, financially, it had massive implications. So a $4 or $5 decision might sound like a petty one to some, but to me at the time, it was kind of like this decision of like, oh, okay, what do I do? And at that point, I had a realization within myself that I needed to choose my pain. I needed to either work really, really hard right now and deal with the pain of discipline, or I needed to deal with the pain of telling my child no at such a simple, subtle gesture that as a child, it meant so much. And so my kids are my why. I've got 3 of them that I know of. My daughter's almost 12, and my little boys, they're 6 and almost 5. So I've got these 3 things that I have no idea what to do with, but I pretend to. And they give me a tremendous amount of inspiration, focus, all of that. So my kids are my why. What if you don't have kids? What is your why? Maybe your why is buying a house. Maybe your why is quitting your job and becoming an entrepreneur and launching your own business. Maybe your why is going on a vacation, all expenses paid for, to Hawaii. Your why doesn't necessarily have to be something that never goes away. So for me, I use my why as my kids as my daily motivation. When I wake up at 5 a.m. every day, I think about my kids. So you've got to have that in the back of your mind. There's got to be this intrinsic little hamster that you've got in your brain that you've wired attached to something, a goal, a destination, right? A reward. We all need it. Because otherwise, what are we doing? Why are we living? Are we living just for a paycheck? And if so, we're not living, we're dying. So you need to have a why. You need to have a why, because I think in its most simple form, it gives us a purpose. I read an interesting quote a while back, and it was talking about planning, but this is why I think you need to have a why. You need to plan ahead. And the quote I read a while back was, plan ahead. It wasn't raining when Noah built the ark. I love that. I love that. Plan ahead because it wasn't raining when Noah built the ark. Think about that. Amazon. Google the picture of Jeff Bezos when Amazon started, and you'll see a picture of him sitting at this plastic table with the most ghetto sign you've ever seen that says Amazon. What about Jimi Hendrix? Do you think he started and woke up as a child just absolutely shredding the guitar? No. He planned, he practiced, right? All of these people I mentioned, Jimi Hendrix, Jeff Bezos, they don't have to be these big, massive people that you look up to. Noah, these are everyday people like you and I. But the point I'm getting at is you need to have a plan. If you are waking up every single day and you've got nothing to I don't want to say nothing to live for, because that sounds depressing, but I think if we're being honest with ourselves, if we aren't living with that purpose, if we aren't living with that why, then what are we doing every day? What are we doing? So plan ahead. There's a lot of really, really great content on this as well. Timothy Ferriss, if you're not familiar with him, he wrote a book, I don't know, 15 years ago called The 4-Hour Workweek. And since then, he's just become a student of life. I'm a big fan of his. I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins. I'm a big fan of John Maxwell. I'm a big fan of Marcus Buckingham, Strength Finders. But what I think you need to do is you need to start planting some ideas and seeds in your brain, because if, as I say, what is your why, you don't know it, you need to discover it. And I would challenge you over the next 30 days, maybe sit down, find a place, whether that's a Starbucks, or if you're like me in San Diego, go to the beach, sit in the ocean. Maybe it's in your backyard listening to the birds, wherever that place is. But you need to sit and really think about this. What is your end goal? What is your why? Do you have a 6-month plan? Do you have a year plan? Do you have a 5-year plan? Do you have a 10-year plan? Have you ever thought about it? And so you've got to be really, really intentional, I feel like, with the way that you live your life, because if you're not, then someone else is going to dictate and make decisions for you. So start with planning. For myself, I like to start really, really broad. So why are my kids my why? I want to provide a good life for them. I want to be able to buy my kids stuff. I want to be able to teach my kids lessons in life. Tonight, I had a conversation with my son who went to wrestling and he hated it. He loves it, but tonight, the reason he hated it is because he wasn't good at something. He couldn't do something. So it's these little mini lessons that we teach ourselves that we have to then pass on, whether it's to our child, whether it's to our spouse, whether it's to a friend, or whether it's in a form of a podcast or a book. But you need to start planning. And so write it out. Write it out. Maybe write out the first thing that comes to your mind. And maybe it's not a why. Maybe you call it a goal. What's your goal for this month? What's your goal for this year, 2021? Do you have a goal? Do you have a theme? Do you have a purpose? How often do you look at that? How often do you analyze it? And so I'm a big fan. If you can't tell, I drink a lot of this Kool-Aid on like the kind of the self-help, self-improvement lifestyle, because I tend to surround myself with people who think and act the way that I do. I don't have time to waste doing things that don't matter anymore because I have kids. But I think the only time you should look back is to see how far you've come. Use that as a stepping stone. For myself in my life, I look at all the trials that, I've prayed those prayers of why God, and every single one of those prayers have had an answer that have made me a better, stronger man because of it. So is it something from your past that's holding you back from pursuing that why? Is it a person? Is it a relationship? Is it a circumstance? Is it a lie you're telling yourself? But I want to say that again, the only time you should look back is to see how far you've come. And so choosing a why, it's so important. I'd love for you guys to share with me what is your why, but why do you need to have one? And then how do you create one? Start there. For myself, the first time I heard this question, what is my why? I didn't have an answer to it. Doesn't need to be this big grandiose thing, but I do think it's important to live with purpose. And so I will leave you with this quote, and it's a Jim Rohn quote. Choose your pain. Choose the pain of discipline or choose the pain of regret. Choose your pain. Choose the pain of discipline or choose the pain of regret. And I hope that if you're listening to this, you're a better person because of it. And if not, I hope that you are seeking towards that, because it is okay to have a dad bod, but it is not okay to have a dad bod mind. So I'd love for you guys to share, what is your why? How's this podcast helped you in any way, shape, or form? And once again, my name is Chris Sack, signing off here from San Diego. Thank you for once again listening to Have a Dad Bod Podcast.